as an ADHDer, we are perfectionists and it can hold us back. If you're doing something, it's not good enough. It is actually usually good enough and it's good enough for everyone else. It's just you. And that's part of the perfectionism issue that ADHDers have. And it's not that we are lazy or anything like that. It's just that we can suffer with how many times have friends said to you, oh, so what about that thing that you were going to do? No, I didn't say that. Tell people you're doing it and that'll entice you to do it. Perfectionism comes about because we doubt ourselves. We don't have the confidence because all our life we've been doing things differently. We haven't fitted into the mold. We haven't fitted into the system and people are different than we are. So we feel like something wrong with us rather than we are actually superpowers. We're different and it's actually all okay. Welcome to the ADHD Fempreneur Podcast, where we unleash the power of the ADHD entrepreneurial mind. I'm Kerry Fitzgibbon. Ladies, let's turn your superpower into success. Welcome to this week's episode of the ADHD Fempreneur. Today we're going to be talking about ADHD and procrastination and perfectionism and how that can, interfere with building a business, getting results, making a ton of money, achieving your goals, and so on. So one of the reasons why I want to touch upon this, as an ADHD, we sometimes don't realise that we are perfectionists and it can hold us back. You know, you might sit there and go, be self-critical and be thinking, if you're doing something, it's not good enough. Or if you look at yourself on a video, if you're doing videos, it's not good enough. Or if you're, starting something, it's not good enough, okay? Because you don't think you're good enough. But what it really is it is actually usually good enough and it's good enough for everyone else. It's just you. And that's part of the perfectionism issue that ADHDers have. And what that can lead to quite often is procrastination, okay? And it's not that we are lazy or anything like that. It's just that we can suffer with perfectionism and procrastination. And it's dear to my heart because obviously I've got ADHD. I have built several multi-million-dollar businesses, but I have definitely been held back from doing a lot more because of a little bit of perfectionism, which has got worse over the years, to be honest, and procrastination, which has come with that as well. Typically, ADHDers will mainly procrastinate on things that we don't want to do. Things that do not give us the dopamine hits. They're the boring stuff. It's the accounts. It's, the doing, invoicing, all that sort of boring bookkeeping stuff is usually what we'll procrastinate about. But sometimes we'll even procrastinate about things that we love or things that we know will get us fantastic results. And there's several reasons why we'll do this. And I'm going to just cover some of those off today, see if you can relate, and then share some tips on exactly how to get through perfectionism and procrastination so that you can actually start kicking those goals, building those businesses, having your dream life and so on, and not criticize yourself so much for not doing those things when back in the back of your head, you're like, you kick yourself because you're like, why can't I just do it? Well, there is a real reason, and let me help you today on how to solve that. And I want to first start with my book that just came out. Okay, so Marathon Girl, it's a hobby of mine. So I fell in love with marathon running many years ago, but it was mainly actually as a challenge, as with everything that I do. So I loved running, but I got into marathon running because I was setting up a new business, a passion business around something, and niched it down to marathon running, and then started my first marathon. But throughout the time, I actually found ways to train better, train smarter, and I tried all the training programs out there, but found a lot of them were designed for men, by men, for men, and they didn't fit with my lifestyle as a business owner, as a busy mum with my hormonal changes and everything else. So I essentially went out and got trainers to build a program specifically for women running marathons. Now, this was over 8 years ago, actually probably about 9 years ago now. And at the same time, I actually built a webinar, and the webinar was, how to train smarter, not harder to achieve your marathon goal for beginners to advanced. And it was all around the 4-day training week. Now, I shared this with you because this was over 8 years ago. Now, with it, I had the idea of, well, I've got this training and it's unique and it's for females, and it helped me to be able to get amazing times. I was a sub 3:30 marathon runner. I've now run over 60 marathons. I've done back-to-back marathons. It enabled me to be able to do my marathon goal and still have a life and have children and run businesses and so on, which is, usually people put on their life on hold to train for their marathon. So I had this unique training system that I was going to write a book about. So it was in my head and I just didn't know where to start, okay? So I started procrastinating about it because I didn't know what to do or where to start. But eventually after 3 years, I talked to someone about it and thought, I'm going to do it now. And so I actually I transcribed my webinar, and then I got a ghostwriter involved with it because I knew full well that every single time I started, it wasn't happening, and then I'd procrastinate further, and you might be able to relate. You might have started things and then got stuck, so then you stop. And so what happened after that is I got the ghostwriter to write the book, and then she sent it back. And there was only one part that I needed to do from there. So what happened after that is she had written the book and sent it back to me. All I had to do was go through it and edit it. So that took about another year because keep in mind, so what happens with us ADHDers is I was excited. I had my dopamine hit. I didn't know where to start. I procrastinated. I buried my head in the sand. And then it goes into a vicious cycle. And then eventually it comes back up again for whatever reason. So with the book, it came back up again. And then I solved it by getting someone else to write it. But the cycle didn't stop because there was still, it's not quite right. And that's where the perfectionism came in. Even though I had someone else write it off the back end of my webinar, which is a really great way. If you ever want to get a book written, all right, get a ghostwriter to do it, okay? Get them to either interview you, or if you've done a webinar or got a training program or anything, get it transcribed and send it to a ghostwriter. Because I know all of us will be thinking, we're creative, we can do it ourselves, it's not a problem. No, you won't. It most likely won't happen. So I let her write it. She sent it back. It took another year before I even went in and edited it with her going, come on, we need to put the changes in. So eventually I went in and edited it, put a few changes in, sent it back to her, and she all but finished it, right? She did finish it, essentially. But it came back to me, and then I read through it, and I'm like, oh, it's not quite right. Perfectionism hit strong, okay? So, and it was great. Like, it was nothing wrong with it, but it was me. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I need more of my own story in it, or maybe I should change this, or what if someone else reads this and it goes against what they think? What if, people don't like me? What if there's not enough information in it all? The self-doubt hit. And that's another thing with us ADHDers, right? Perfectionism usually comes about because we doubt ourselves. We don't have the confidence because all our life we've been doing things differently. We haven't fitted into the mold. We haven't fitted into the system, and people are different than we are. So we feel like it's something wrong with us rather than we are actually superpowers and we're different and it's actually all okay. So now we're 8 years on from the thought of the book, and you can understand, how this happened. So there was lots of things going on here in my brain that was stopping this damn thing from happening. So you may be able to relate. How many projects and things have you started and not finished? How many times have you gone and got really excited about doing something and then started and got stuck and not sure where to go? So then you stop. And then you procrastinate. And each day people might go, hey, remember that thing? Weren't you going to do that book? Weren't you going to do that webinar? Or remember, weren't you going to start that new business? Yes, yep, because you're excited. Tell you what, when we're excited about something, we tell everyone. We're telling them about our new venture that's happening. We're telling them, shouting it from the rooftops, and it's definitely going to happen. In the back of your head, do you ever sit there and think, and I often do, I actually I now quite often keep things quiet because people say, tell people you're doing it and that'll entice you to do it. Well, how many times have friends said to you, oh, so what about that thing that you were going to do? And no, I didn't do that. And all the projects and stuff, right? The reason is generally procrastination, perfectionism, and and there is a solution. So here's what you can do, and here's what I did, all right? Let go. So you actually have to let go. If you're passionate about it, and let's just say it's a book that you want to put out. All of us should put out a book. I mean, we're all bloody amazing and we've got so much expertise and there's so many things. Everyone's actually got a story to tell, okay? And actually a book does actually set you apart from everyone else and sets you out to be an expert in your field. So all of us should do one, but let's just say you're like, not me. Anything, and the next thing that you want to do. What you do is you have to let go. Let go of the perfectionism. And I know that's hard to do. And the best way to do that is it's easy to start a project. So if you don't procrastinate and you start the project, which most of us will start a project because we're excited, we actually stop partway through when it gets a bit difficult and not as fun. It's at that stage where you start to procrastinate. My suggestion at that stage is where you get someone else in to take over. And that means you have to let go and you have to trust them. The person you get in to take over that project has to obviously be, good at doing that thing. So you might have to do some research and find that person, all right? Typically it might be a neurotypical, or it might be another ADHDer who's good at taking over things like that, Who knows? So at that point, let go and get someone else to take over to get it done, right? If it's like me and it's a book or anything like that, right? Once they've done it, you can have a look over it and see whether you like it, but make sure you're guided by them as well. Don't sit there and go, leave it with me, because this is what I did. Leave it with me. I'll look at it and I'll get back to you. No, you make sure that person's next to you when you're going over it and you're editing anything or you're going over it and you're wanting those changes, and then you have to let go again and trust that they'll go and do it. Because here's the deal. If you don't do that, it's not going to get done. No matter how much you convince yourself, no matter how much you say in your brain, oh yeah, I will finish it, I promise I will finish it, and you promise people you'll finish it, and you will. How many times has that worked for you? So get someone else to take over and then trust them. And then what I did with my book, so here's how I solved it. I got someone else to take over. So I got the ghostwriter. Then I did a bit of editing, but then I got someone in who is a book writer and a good friend of mine and knows my story and knows everything. And she, helps with Amazon bestselling. So mine now is a #1 bestseller. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. And that launched and got to #1 bestseller within a few days of launching. 8 years in the making, a few days into #1 bestseller on Amazon. But she took it over. She sent it back to me and she said, no, Kerry, it's just check the image, the pictures in it and make sure they're okay. Well, I didn't, by the way. And there are a few pictures that are wrong, but hey. And then she just took over and said, no, I'm doing the rest. And I had to back away from the project. So that's how we did it. And she just took over all the rest of it, got it onto Amazon bestseller, and did all the work for me. And then all of a sudden, there you go. It's done. So that's how I get through my day-to-day now. That's how, since over the years and as I've got older and, change of life and that my symptoms, ADHD symptoms have got worse. So I've had to rely on other people stepping in to help support me to get things done, to get through the perfectionism, to get through the procrastination. Even now, people can't really leave me to just do my own videos. I have to have a team around me to do my own videos. And they actually lock me down for a day a week to do all my content because actually they left it to me once when I went away and I didn't do it. I just didn't because it wasn't good enough. I actually sat in front of the video, to be honest, and I started filming and then I didn't like what I said. I didn't like the way I looked and so on. And so they didn't even see any of that. And then when I, came back into the country, they locked me down for the day to do it. It's the only way I can get things done, not by myself, because if I look at it, it's not good enough. So if you're a business owner and you are, finding that your business isn't growing the way you want it to grow because of you, let's face it, because of the perfectionism and the procrastination, or that you are not kicking your goals, that you feel like you can do so much more, because we do. These brains of ours, we have so many dreams and ideas and, things going on, and we just feel like we're falling short. And I know that you can relate to this. You feel like you're falling short and you're not getting stuff done. Then get a team around to support you. You might want to get yourself a VA if you haven't, got a big budget, for instance, and you're starting out. You can get VAs in the Philippines. I've got this amazing VA in the Philippines, and they start as little as $3 an hour, okay? And they do, anything, like they can do anything. One of my advice about hiring VAs, though, is that, you might want to do a fair bit of testing and interviewing, give them tasks. Again, that's a bit hard for us. I left that to someone else. I actually got someone else to hire the VA for me. But, in the beginning, it was me because I didn't have the budget. And I just went through VAs pretty quickly until I got the right ones to support me. But the things that they can do your day-to-day menial tasks. They can, keep you accountable. They can, pretty much anything. Do your graphics, do your marketing, do whatever else. If you pay lower, you tend to get people that are not as experienced, but still good for some of the stuff. So there's a really good site that I use. It's called Online Jobs PH. So it's a Filipino site where you can get Filipino virtual assistants, and like I said, they do everything and anything. However, like I said, some people say they're expert status. They're not. So thoroughly go through, and again, boring. What I do, I give them a task of something that needs to be done, and I give it to about 10 different people, and I leave it to them, all right? And whoever comes back, the first few that come back best with the task without asking too many questions, or if they do need to ask questions, using their initiative, then I break it down from there. The other thing I do in a job description, no matter what, so there's another site called Upwork, where you can get people from all over the world, and you can do smaller tasks or bigger tasks or smaller projects or full-time. What I do is in the first sentence, I say to them in the application, I'll say, make sure when you respond back that actually, no, I don't. I do it on the last one. So the last line of the application, I put, when responding back to this job, put and then I put a word in there. So it might be marathon girl, so that I know that they've read the entire job description, because some of them just tick and flick the same thing to everyone. So I narrow down people to all the ones that have put the reference of what I've said for them to put there. So if it's a Facebook Ninja, I'll put right at the bottom of my application, I'll write out what I need, and I'll say, make sure when quoting back this job, you put Facebook Ninja or Marathon Girl, so you know who's read it. So that's one of my things that I do, and it might be handy for you. So get yourself a VA, to help you with some of this stuff. Other thing I do is, and it might help you, is, I outsource a lot of things, like, even this filming of my podcast and things. I, come in, I speak. Everyone else does everything else, because again, if it left to me, again, my podcast was 5 years or longer, actually even longer, probably about 8 years in my head as well. And it's only been done in the last, few months, because I got a team to do it all for me and to tie me down to do it. I also have in my business, and this might be helpful, if you've got a business where you need creatives or someone to have a similar brain to yours, get yourself another ADHDer. So my media buyer and my creative person in my business, she's an ADHDer. We're friggin' hilarious together. She's actually a little bit more structured than I am, but, she's a lot younger, so isn't going through what happens when you get into the change of life, perimenopause or menopausal. With ADHD, it can get worse. But her and I sit and we just brainstorm, and it's fantastic. And she's the creative side. And then what we do is we have a neurotypical person in our business. If you were talking about a DISC profile, I'm not sure if you know about that, look it up. They're a DISC. So they're a SC person, which is your person that likes to support, and then your analytical type of person. I'm not even sure what the C stands for. I probably should know, but you've got your support person and your person that is really good at the project management, time management, and things like that. So ADHD for the creative side, support person, neurotypical typically for the back-end boring stuff, but making sure that things get done, and anything in between, I typically get a VA to come in and just sort of, oversee and make sure everything runs smoothly in my business, and would thoroughly recommend that if you are a business owner that with ADHD and you are struggling, that you do get those support people. Even if you're not struggling right now in your business, if you want to grow, you need to get people to jump into your business to help you grow. And often it can be difficult because you're in that sort of that in-between point where I'm not making enough money to get someone else to do work for me, but I can't get to the next step because I can't do it all myself. My suggestion is you get someone from the Philippines or an outsourcer from somewhere else where you can pay a little less just to step you over that gap, or look at where in your business you're leaking money and think about where you can hold back on some things to invest in your business to move it forward. If you resonate to any of this, if any of this has helped you in any way and you can relate, make sure you leave a comment. Let me know below. Also, if you do love this information, if you are an ADHD Fempreneur and you want more help with building your businesses and, maybe a community of people that are just like you who can support you, make sure that you do follow me on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Give me a 5-star rating. That'd be fantastic, so that I can continue bringing this information to you. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.